The following presentation is controversial and may be shocking to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. If you aren't a proud, patriotic, God-fearing American who counts your lucky stars every day for living on U.S. soil, I'm going to politely ask you to leave this page right now. If you foolishly assume you'll always wake up in the morning with things the same way they were when you went to sleep the night before, or if you think this great nation of ours will be A-OK because of all the wonderful systems our brilliant forward-thinking government has in place for us when disaster strikes, please don't waste another second of your time watching this video. If that's you, it's time to go back to reruns of Seinfeld and laugh yourself back to La La Land. You obviously think that your spouse and children are going to be just fine when disaster strikes. Maybe you think 9/11 could never happen again. Hurricane Katrina was just another storm, and the evaporating value of the trusted US dollar is just par for the course. Hey, if that's you, there's nothing more I can say. You're clearly living in the same fortress of delusion as the other 95% of the American public. I hope you're warm and cozy in there. I hope you brought your flashlight. My name is Richard Marshall, and I'm a certified survival expert and instructor with 22 years of in-the-field training and experience. I've worked in both federal and state emergency operations centers, and I hold over 75 certifications specializing in counterterrorism, decontamination, WMDs, and hazmat, to name a few. I'm also regularly deployed to national disaster areas with FEMA as part of the incident command staff. In my downtime, I spend weekends teaching the essential life-saving skills that every American from 8 to 88 absolutely needs to know to survive the looming crisis. The crisis that is barreling down on us with exponentially more force than Katrina and 9/11 combined. And I have to tell you, it's shocking how little the average person knows about what they need to do in a crisis situation. In fact, in my 22 years teaching survival skills, I've taught thousands of people. And the difference between what they know on day one and what they know by the time it's over is literally the difference between life and death. And not just life and death for them, but far more importantly, life and death for their families as well. Sure, I get paid a little for my time, but do you think I'd rather be in the middle of the woods in rural Colorado sleeping on the ground away from my wife and 2 children, or enjoying the comforts of home and a nice glass of wine with my wife after we put the kids to bed? I do this because of the insatiable demand that's virtually exploded over the past 9 months. I do this because I have a responsibility to share my knowledge with my fellow Americans. I do this because if I don't, who will? Not my neighbors, that's for sure. They're too deep into their brainwashed state of artificially medicated bliss. They actually think the government will take care of them in a crisis. And worse, they're ignorant enough to still believe the government has the resources to do so. That's what really scares me. Have you ever seen a FEMA camp? If you haven't, consider yourself one of the lucky ones. The way I see it, the more people that know how to survive the crisis, the safer we're all going to be. And that helps everyone. So I make certain sacrifices to help those that I can. I'm not claiming to be saving the world or to be some kind of saint or hero. I'm doing what I believe is necessary for as many of us to survive as possible. Sadly, I'll barely be able to scratch the surface with my in-field weekend seminars. So if you're watching this now, close your email, turn off your cell phone, and keep paying extra close attention, because if you don't already know inside and out what I'm about to cover in the next 7 minutes, I can guarantee that you and your family are on a one-way train to a catastrophe of epic proportions. And I wish I could tell you that I'll be keeping this video up here indefinitely, but with the NSA watching over our shoulders, this video could easily be gone tomorrow. I hope I haven't scared you too much. Sometimes the truth just hurts. Better to be a little shocked into reality than unprepared though, right? So get ready, because it's about to get a little bumpy. And just in case you think you have it all figured out, I'm going to ask you to hang tight and watch to the very end, because you're not going to believe what you're about to hear. Listen, I'm not claiming to be some kind of prophet. I don't have a crystal ball. But when major television networks are creating entire TV series around survival and disaster preparation, my weekend survival courses have gone from being half full to sold out months in advance, and stockpiling non-perishable food has gone from the totally bizarre to the total norm. It's time to get with the program. It's not common sense. It's not guesswork, and doing what you might think is right will likely get you killed almost every time. Is the world going to explode tomorrow? Probably not. But if you can't see the writing on the wall, it's time to get some glasses. And if you think you're walking around with some kind of safety net courtesy of the U.S. government, or worse, if you believe your friendly neighbors who are usually smiling and saying hello will help you out in a pinch, reality check. In times of survival, it's every man and woman for themselves. That's human nature. It can't can't and won't change. No one knows exactly when the next crisis will happen, or even in what form it will take. But we're not talking years. We may be talking months, maybe even weeks. Your guess is as good as mine. Oh, and if you've already prepared your own disaster kit according to the Department of Homeland Security's website, you may have put yourself in an even worse situation. It's the classic mistake of thinking you're prepared when you may be far from it. Top survival experts commonly say a sense of false confidence is the most dangerous killer of all. The good news is you're watching this video because you are aware of the danger. You aren't living in delusion, oblivious to the daunting reality that is facing our fine country. You can feel something is off. You're probably a little nervous about where this country is going, and you're responsible enough to know you don't know everything. You're in a good place, but I'm going to see you get to a much better one. After all, that's the only responsible option, right? Because when disaster comes, you'll have zero warning. You'll likely have zero time to do anything about it. So please, stop trying to convince yourself that everything is okay. It's time to wake up, learn the truth, and get ready. Our economy is in the worst position it's ever experienced. According to the Treasury Department, during Obama's first term, the federal government accumulated more debt than it did under the first 42 U.S. presidents combined. It's now sitting at nearly $17 trillion. And if we started paying off just the new debt we've accumulated during the Obama administration at the rate of $1 per second, it would take more than 184,000 years to pay it off. So what does this mean for you and me? We as a country are sitting on the edge of a 3,000-foot cliff and the ground is crumbling beneath our feet. And in practical terms, all of this translates to us being unable to repay our debt. So what, you say? We'll just borrow more. Not likely. Think about it. Does a bank give out more money to folks who can't pay their mortgage, or do they foreclose on their house? Our situation is exactly the same, and here's what many experts are predicting could happen. Once we can no longer afford to pay the interest on the trillions in treasury bonds we've sold to countries like Japan, China, and England, these superpowers all walk away from our dollar and it becomes worthless overnight. So now, for us to buy all that oil needed to make gasoline, it'll cost us 10 to 20 times what it did the day before, because our dollar's been abandoned and is now worth next to nothing. And now the food supply companies who operate those huge 18-wheelers won't be able to afford the fuel they need to run them. So who's delivering food now? No one. Within 3 days, every grocery store shelf will be completely bare. And worse, clean drinking water will be gone as well. And if there are any leftovers, the prices will be 100 times beyond unaffordable. $500 for a loaf of bread, $800 for a chicken. Many top economists, including Forbes magazine, agree that we're soon in for a depression that makes 2008 look like a cakewalk. It's happened before in Germany, where they were burning their money because it was cheaper than firewood. It's happened more recently in Haiti, where there were deadly angry mobs, looting, and massive riots in the streets over food and water. Many people died fighting for the scraps, and it happened right here during Katrina and Sandy when our fellow patriots waited in lines for days to put food on the table for their families. It wasn't pretty. People will do anything to get food for their families when it's them against you. It makes no difference in what form the crisis comes. Financial collapse, Category 5 hurricane, devastating flood, cataclysmic wildfire, terrorist attack. The result is the same regardless. Pandemonium. Look, you know this is all very real. You're well aware it's not a matter of if, but when. So here's the big question. What have you done to educate yourself on how to prepare? Because if you have a flashlight and a few days of food in the basement and think you're all set, you are far, far worse off than you could ever imagine. I see this every weekend I teach one of my survival courses. Folks who think they have it covered, when in fact, if they did what they thought was the right thing to do in a crisis, their actions would get themselves killed 9 times out of 10. We live in a country of 350 million of the most ill-prepared people on the planet. And sadly, I can't help everyone, even though I wish I could. But I can help those who share the same mindset I do, one of responsibility. Responsibility to their families and responsibility to their communities. Because remember, 95% of your neighbors are totally unprepared, and you really don't want to be competing with the desperation of the masses. So if you can't sustain your household for between 3 weeks and 3 months, you better be bigger, stronger, and a whole lot tougher than every last one of your neighbors. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, this is scary stuff, but it's real. And the more you know, the more prepared you can be. And that's where I come in. Because if you are part of the 5% who have the knowledge, you'll never have to worry about your well-being. well-being. You'll be able to sleep like a baby, and your family will always be safe in a crisis. However, you can't afford to wait. There's no time to procrastinate, not even for another day, because what if something happens tomorrow? Are you prepared? If you are on the other side of the fence with the 330 million unprepared Americans, you may not survive. And even if you do, you and your family will be infinitely more miserable than on the worst day of your entire life. Only it might last for months. The choice is yours. I have the knowledge, and I'm offering it to you right now. My family is safe, and so are the families of the thousands of students I've taught over the 22 years I've been doing this. One simple decision today could easily be the difference between being warm, safe, and well-fed indefinitely, or waiting in a line for 17 hours straight overnight in the freezing cold, soaking wet just to get a tiny bologna sandwich and a few sips of lukewarm, watery soup. I don't want that for you, because the next crisis will absolutely turn all of society into an us versus them situation. If you want to be part of the us group, then you need to know what I know. You need to be able to react, prepare, and defend your home the same way I do. So I rolled up my sleeves, locked myself in my office, and worked on nothing else till I'd created the exact step-by-step, color-by-numbers formula that any man, woman, or child can quickly learn and use to survive any disaster situation. I've poured my heart and soul into this. No stone was left unturned. 22 years of real-world experience condensed and laid out for you in an easy-to-read, simple-to-follow roadmap. Every last essential detail you'll ever need is included. Right from page 1, you'll discover immediately it's direct, straight to the point. No BS, no fluff. It comes complete with 5 modules, detailed checklists, multiple drills and exercises you can practice with your family to make absolutely certain you'll never be caught off guard, never be unprepared, and never have to worry about any crisis no matter what form it presents itself ever again. The moment you're in possession of this knowledge, you'll be just as empowered as I am. You'll immediately transform from one of them to one of us. You'll become a leader in your community. Your family will be able to fully rely on you. Maybe you'll even help eradicate the catastrophic ignorance that exists around you, as you'll now be a hyper-informed, supremely confident survival expert. Let me fill you in on everything you'll get in Alive After Crisis. First, it's broken down into 5 modules, which are drawn from the many different styles and types of workshops I've taught over the years. Students pay up to $1,000 to receive training on each module, but you'll receive instant access to all 5 modules neatly packaged together in a single volume. We'll dive right into understanding the psychology of the masses in a crisis situation and how you can use this knowledge to guarantee you never get sucked into the riot mentality that ends lives. You'll discover what your single biggest threat is in any crisis and how to not only be ready for it, but to guarantee it will never become an issue. 95% of people who die in the first 3 days of a crisis die for only one reason. I'll tell you what it is. You'll learn a brain-dead simple life-saving trick to make sure you have enough water to drink, even if your supply were to vanish overnight. Plus, you'll discover how simple it is to turn polluted rainwater into crystal-clear, fresh drinking water. I'll show you the single best way to stay warm if you've lost heat and power, even if it's the dead of winter. Psychogenic shock, or going into shock as it's commonly referred to, is a totally debilitating bodily reaction that happens to far too many people in a crisis. If you get it, you're finished. I'll show you how to get out of it with a strategy that will never fail you. You'll see how easy it is to have delicious home-cooked meals, even if the power and gas have been off for weeks. Guns kill, but they save lives as well. Should you own one, you'll discover the God's honest truth about firearms. Everything you need to know about guns to keep your family safe and completely eliminate the risk of owning one should you choose to bear arms. You'll also discover how to be fully informed with up-to-the-minute breaking news during the crisis, even if you have no power whatsoever. Alive After Crisis will give you all the knowledge you'll need to skillfully navigate your way through any crisis situation. You'll know more than all the families on your block combined. Imagine what you can command for your knowledge. Weapons, food, water, shelter, you name it, you'll get it. It's common for food stocks to spoil. If yours do, it could mean starvation for your family. I'll show you how to ensure none of your stored food will ever go bad. Plus, I'll reveal all the essential food items you must have stored in your home at all times. Scammers and thieves fly out of the woodwork when crisis hits. You'll learn how to identify the most common scam these looters will use to get you to come running outside your home. If you fall for this, it's over. But one simple trick will ensure you never do. God forbid you should ever get robbed out on the street, but it can happen. This one trick will ensure you'll get away safely every time. Keeping morale up is essential during any crisis. An unhappy, frightened, scared family can fall apart overnight. I've seen it happen, and it isn't pretty. I'll show you how to create a feeling of safety in your family even after the world is falling apart around you. To stay alive after crisis, you need to know all of this. Your body of knowledge is what will keep you alive. And what about protection for your family? You'll learn how to turn your home into a bunker nearly as safe as the president's. You'll have the most impenetrable house on the block. Once you execute my simple home protection plan, the looters and thieves won't even look at your house. They'll simply move on to the next one. You'll get my 3 most essential self-defense secrets you'll learn in seconds. Knowing these can mean the difference between life and death in a riot, crisis, or personal attack. I'll share my favorite cell phone app with you. With the push of a button, you'll instantly alert your 6 closest friends you're in danger and give them your exact location. This app recently won a Technology and Safety Protection Award from the White House, and it's completely free. What if disaster strikes when you're away from home and the cell towers are down? You'll discover the 7 essential items you must have on or near you, in your car, for example, at all times to ensure your safe return home to your family. Having all the first aid essentials in your home is imperative. I'll spell out exactly how to assemble a medical kit rivaling a fully equipped ambulance. And if money is tight or you're on a fixed income, you'll learn exactly how to become a survivor without having to stretch your limited funds. I could go on and on here, because what I've just listed out only scratches the surface of what you're going to get. Yet, all you really need to know is this. By the time you've read through Alive After Crisis, you'll be prepared. You'll have peace of mind. Whether it's a massive storm, an economic collapse, or, God forbid, another terrorist attack that hits closer to home than 9/11 did, you'll have all your bases covered. Lights or power go out, you'll know what to do. Heat goes off, you'll know how to stay warm. Grocery stores bare, you'll be stocked up and eating well for weeks, even months. Your food will never spoil and you'll never run out of water. I hate to say it, but in any disaster, there are the haves and the have-nots. So you better make sure you and your family are part of the haves. No one else will take care of you. In a serious crisis, you can only rely on yourself, and your family is relying on you. Maybe you'll be able to help a few lucky neighbors. You could easily be the hero of the hour, or maybe the entire crisis. It's human nature to help those we can, and now you'll be able to help a lot more than before. That's the power you'll have. Now, if you think you can just go to your local bookstore and find this stuff between 2 covers in the survival section, think again. What you can find is too broad, too general, and it's scattered among far too many resources. Alive After Crisis is the get-to-the-point, no BS, no fluff, gritty truth exposed on everything you need to know to keep you and your family safe, warm, well-fed, and protected. It's broken down into 5 easy-to-follow, quick-to-digest modules, with full review sections at the end of each one, plus checklists you can print and exercises you could run through to give your family absolute confidence that you're ready for anything. Alive After Crisis was carefully and thoughtfully designed to guarantee you won't miss a beat. It didn't come easy either. Sure, I could have sat down and written 800 pages on every tiny nuance for every type of climate and geographical region in the USA. But that wouldn't do you any good because you'd never get through it. Well, sadly, that's how most survival books are written. Way too much useless information. Have you ever had to pack for a trip in a really small bag? You had to be picky and only include exactly what you needed. That's exactly how I wrote Alive After Crisis. Everything you need is there, but it's concise enough that you'll get through it quickly, which means you'll learn every last drop of it. It's all designed to jump right off the pages straight into your brain and stay there. And that brings me to the price. How do you put a price on happiness, safety, and peace of mind versus the bleak alternative so many will surely face? How do you put a dollar sign on the difference between being a leader who can save lives versus a follower who may be draining scarce community resources? Peace of mind is priceless. Protecting your children, essential. And as I said, I have a responsibility to help others. In fact, I bet you may even feel the same way once you have the knowledge yourself. The more people that know this stuff, the safer we'll all be. I truly believe that. Yet, at the same time, I have folks lined up paying $500 to $1,000 to learn the essential survival skills I teach in the book. And to be honest, the book is the better way to go, because it's all written down for future reference, and there are no slow students asking silly questions holding the class back. To gain instant access to all 5 modules, all of the checklists, and the crucial drills every family should know by heart, I initially decided to price it at half of my most economical one-day course. That would put the price tag at $97. However, I know if I did that, there are an awful lot of folks who would still pass it up and just do nothing. They would stay in the them category. And for reasons I've already stated, that isn't good for anyone. So I thought about it a little more because I wanted to come up with an absolute no-brainer. Don't even think about it price that would allow anyone, no matter how limited their budget was, to get this knowledge today. And that price was $47. $47 to go from the hell of the have-nots to the comfort and safety of the haves. $47 to instantly transform from a them to an us. And I dare say at that price you won't find a better value for anything you can buy, regardless of what it is. That's beyond a bargain. Because remember, when the time comes, your knowledge will be so valuable, your neighbors will gladly trade you anything they can to know what you know. I've seen it before. I'm talking about food, water, weapons, tools, anything you could ever need will be yours. Now, since you're still watching, I know you're serious, and I applaud you for that. So I'm going to do something else for you today to make absolutely sure you get your copy of Alive After Crisis right now. You'll see a timer running below right now. If you grab your copy of Alive After Crisis before the timer runs out, you'll get an additional 20% discount and only pay $37 for instant access. If you wait, you'll pay the full $47 just like everyone else. To survive a disaster, you need to make quick decisions and execute on them. I was a captain in the U.S. Air Patrol where I served as a Squadron Emergency Services Officer teaching senior members search and rescue, survival skills, and first aid. I taught and tested thousands of officers. I'm testing you right now. Do you have what it takes to survive? Grab your copy before the timer runs out and you only pay $37. If you hesitate, you'll pay $47. If you don't act at all, you may pay with your life during a crisis. Survivors have the ability to make rapid, instinctual decisions, life or death decisions, in an instant. Grab your 20% discount before the timer runs out. Prove that you have what it takes to survive. I also want to make sure that you are overwhelmingly confident in your purchase today. So I'm doing something I've never done before to make absolutely certain you're satisfied. I call it the No Family Left Behind Guarantee, and here's how it works. If you don't feel the value you've received is at least 25 times what you paid, I insist you ask me for a full refund. If you are totally motivated to burn through all 5 modules the minute you get your hands on the book, then I've failed you, plain and simple. I'm so confident that you'll not only need this information, but will love learning it, that I'm going to give you 60 days to get through every last word, run through all the exercises, review every checklist, and make sure it exceeds every last one of your expectations. If you're not thrilled with it, just let me know and I'll send you a full refund on the spot. No questions asked. But I know you'll love it and use it, so I'm not concerned. You really have just 3 simple questions to ask yourself. First, can you make a quick life-saving decision right now? Second, is the long-term safety of your family worth $37? And finally, is it really worth taking the risk of being a have-not when the crisis hits? Because if you let $37 get in the way of the survival, safety, and comfort of your family, you have much bigger problems. The simple system I'm offering you will give you every skill, tactic, and technique you need to make sure your family not only survives, but also thrives when the inevitable collapse finally comes. You don't want to think back to this moment and say, why didn't I just spend the $37 that day? Things would be so much easier if I had. You're the person your family, maybe even your community, will rely on to guide them to safety when it all crashes down. Don't you want to be the person who has those skills, who has that knowledge? Be a better person than you are today, a more responsible, more knowledgeable person. One simple decision, costing less than a cheap dinner at a chain restaurant that comes with a 60-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee will make all the difference in the world. And, far more importantly, all the difference in your world. It allows me to do my job as well by spreading the knowledge that will save lives when disaster strikes. Just click the button you see below, take the first step, and grab your instant 20% discount. You could wait, let the timer run out, and then kick yourself when the price jumps up 20%. Or even worse, you could leave this page without taking that crucial step forward. But what happens if tomorrow is the day you wake up to a completely different world? Life as you know it could be over, and you'll be part of the have-nots. Please don't let $37 be that difference. If you leave now, you may be too late. Help me in my mission, and I'll help you in yours. This way we both win, and everyone we know will be better off for it as well. Hit the button below. Fill out the secure form that follows, and I'll take over from here. And I'll see you on the other side in just a minute, where a very special welcome is waiting for you right now.